Wow. Woo, it's so good to see all of you. Woo. Right? Are they remarkable? Oh my God, it's such an honor. Wow. Whew. So this week, instead of talking about spirituality, I thought I'd talk about furniture. You guys don't mind, do you? Actually, this chair you see behind me is a very spiritual chair. This chair was the chair of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, who was a Hasidic master in the late 1700s to early 1800s. One of his followers made this beautiful chair for him, and he was honored to sit in it, to pray in it, and do all the things that he did as a spiritual leader. When he passed, they kept the chair intact because it meant a lot to have his chair that was his chair of leading and being in that place of oneness. What happened, though, after the Cossack invasion in the 1920s, they had to dismantle the chair and they cut it up because they wanted to be able to preserve it. They didn't want it destroyed. And in the early 19th, am I boring you or what? And I'm like, Dale, what are you doing? But this is important. So in the 1930s, late 1930s, mid-1930s, the chair, because I should say he was in Ukraine, the chair was taken away because the Holocaust was starting up, and it was taken to Jerusalem, where in the 1980s it was finally restored and now sits in a museum in Jerusalem, which is pretty cool. So if anybody's in Jerusalem, make sure you see the chair. So the chair was really important because the preserved chair of Rebbe Nachman represents the tension between his spiritual presence and his physical absence, right? Because people knew that he had such a rich teaching that landed in their hearts, that they were living in and that they remembered, that the chair just had this kind of place for them to kind of be with his absence, yet to be able to know that he is still there with them. And it's all about the empty chair. So this week has been a week for me and the rest of us who are here a lot. It's been a lot of empty chair time for me. There's the empty chair in the minister's office where Dr. Laura used to sit, and we would talk everything from politics to church business to just being snarky, because you know every conversation with her has a snark. There's also the empty chair that she sat in the front part of the office. And then there's this empty chair. So for me, it's been that reminder that something's missing in my life, something that was so very important, and I know we share that. We all share that together. And so the emptiness has been something I've really been with this week. And when emptiness drops us on, emptiness drops us on Spirit's doorstep. And it's up to us to knock on the door so we can be filled up with its everlasting presence, peace, and wholeness. That is something that has meant so much to me in my spiritual growth, because when I was younger and not really into spirit or feeling the presence, emptiness was a really difficult place for me to be, because it's like the bottom fell out from under me and I felt alone and I felt separate. I didn't have that core of spirit inside of me that I could lean into, that could nourish me even in the midst of loss and absence. Ernest Holmes says, the divine presence within each of us is both the center and circumference of our real being. And sometimes we forget that when we're going through loss, because all of our energy that we've been experiencing with others, and it's not just people, it's any kind of experience where we've had all this interconnectivity, when that's lost, it can make us really feel disoriented and alone. But when we remember that that presence is within us, it gives us comfort. It softens all of that harsh space that we can feel. Ernest goes on to say, it is the infinite presence that inhabits eternity and finds a dwelling place in our own consciousness. Do you like that? Doesn't that feel good? One thing I just so love about our teaching is that Spirit is within us 24/7. It never goes away, ever. And I love that because I lean into that, because I know no matter what I'm going through, I feel that presence. And some of you may not know, what does the presence feel like? And honestly, it is individual to us. I can say that sometimes we feel the presence when we're looking at a sunrise or a sunset. Sometimes we feel the presence when we're just meditating. It's just that feeling state that's beyond words, it's beyond concepts. It's just a state of mind, a state of consciousness where you feel full and you feel oneness and you feel connected. So you probably didn't know that there's a lot of spiritual power in chairs. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the spiritual power of all chairs. I told you it was about furniture. So a chair is more than furniture. It is a sacred object that reminds us to be present, to rest, to receive, and to rise into our spiritual power. I bet you didn't know that before you came here today. Whether you're seated in meditation, in prayer, in thought, or in grief, the chair becomes a quiet witness to your soul's journey. By the time you leave here, you are going to have such a different concept of chairs. No matter where you go, if you go to a restaurant and you sit in a chair, all this is going to come back to you, and your eating experience is going to be like supernatural. So there's support and stability. The chair carries our weight and allows us to relax. And boy, don't we need that. Life can get so heavy. It's nice to have something we can just let go and just let it take the burden. So it signifies the support system we lean on in life, our values, our beliefs, friends, community, the universe, and spirit. It represents that which allows us to really let go and relax and just find that peace. Authority and power. The chair symbolizes authority, right? Like a throne. Own your power, acknowledge your soul's wisdom, and speak from a place of integrity, right? That's what your chair can do for you. And then rest in reflection. The chair invites us to pause where we find spiritual reflection. And this is like Rebbe Nachum. This is what he was all about. Spiritual reflection, a place to just be. It's a place of inner stillness and the ability to listen to our soul's voice. The value of just doing nothing and just be, that is the beauty of the chair, to just be in that place. It's also about presence and mindfulness. The chair anchors us in the present moment, right? You can't walk, you can't move, you just are right there, right now. It's a call to mindfulness, to come back to your breath, your body, and your spiritual center. Your spiritual center here and here, because you're all sitting in chairs. It's also an invitation and openness, a sign of welcoming for a friend or guest, an ancestor, or a divine being. It is unfilled space and soul. One thing I love about Judaism is that we have empty chairs for a lot of things that we do. It's very interesting. When the child is having a circumcision, there's always an empty chair next to the rabbi, because that chair opens the space for ancestors or spirit, whatever you want to call it. But it shows, it's a significator that there's some other presence here in this sacred moment. And also, for Passover, we have the chair for Elijah. We have a chair for him to come in and sit and join the party. So this whole idea of an invisible presence and an empty chair for it to come in and be part of this life is very significant, and not just for Jewish people, because I know a lot of you out there are all about having space for loved ones who have crossed over to come join you. So this is Dr. Laura. Rick, I'm going to cite, Rick posted this on Facebook. Thank you. Dr. Laura's last talk, interestingly enough, she was sitting in a chair, right? She was sitting in a chair. And when I was doing my talk, I didn't realize it until I was crafting it. I was like, oh my God, she was sitting in a chair. How interesting that her final talk, she would be in that throne of authority, that place of stillness, and how beautiful she looked. Yeah? Rabbi Nachum says, when one sits on a chair, one is a mensch. Who knows what a mensch is in this room? Oh, a lot of you. So here's my holy confession today. Up until I was working on my talk, I thought a mensch only meant a man. I thought it was reserved for the male. And then I'm reading about mensches, and it's like, oh no, it is not gender specific. A man, a woman can be a mensch too. And look, she's a mensch. I never thought I would say that. Dr. Laura, you are a mensch, my friend. Oh my God, see the irreverence? She gave it to me and I'm starting to work through it here. Stay tuned. Anyways, so her sitting on that chair at her last service, she was quite a mensch. And for those of you that don't know what a mensch is, I'm going to tell you. A mensch is a person of integrity and honor. I think we can all agree she is that. And I'm going to refer to her as is because I know her energy is still here. She is a whole human being. When she was in this carnation, absolutely perfect, whole, and complete, as we say. And perfect, whole, and complete is just being in your place of knowing who you are spiritually. She knew that, and she brought it. It's someone who has integrated the diverse elements of his or her being, both physical and spiritual. And she was that. You know, I think a lot about, I know you all have heard many of her talks where she talks about how she even came into science of mind. And what I recall her saying is there was something on her heart that knew there was more to life than just this. She knew her soul was starting to call her to live into it, to experience a greater energy that she carries inside of herself, that we all do. But something was calling her to start really expressing that and getting tuned into that. So she is somebody who was able to integrate both the physical and the spiritual so beautifully. Someone who has overcome the inner emptiness that we sometimes feel. Absolutely. She had her challenges in life, but she allowed herself to transform the emptiness into a fullness. She was great at that. She was able to travel through the vicissitudes of life and stand strong in who she was no matter what and show up as that complete being. A mensch, when such a person sits on a chair, the chair is full. I know that's Dr. Laura. When she sat on that chair in that last talk, she was in her full capacity of being that being she was brought here to be as our teacher. Such a beauty. So Lao Tzu says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. You guys have heard that before. Unfortunately, there's another part to this. When the student is truly ready, the teacher disappears. And I know that's hard. I don't even like saying it, but there's a truth to that. And it's even though they might disappear in this way of being, they never disappear from our heart. It's just that they finished what they were teaching us here, especially in this room. Dr. Laura talked about love quite a lot. Beautiful Ryan said at the vigil, he said his mom used to talk about spiritual principle, how to use it, when she was giving talks a while ago. But in her later part of being a minister here, a spiritual leader, she started just anchoring in love because she knew that was the answer to all that hurts us. Love, love, and more love. Anything that is an obstacle, put love on it, and things will open up. That is what she taught. She taught us the preciousness of the moment. Never, never, ever. That's the word I'm looking for. Hello? Okay. Never take advantage. Thank you. Never take advantage of what is before you. Be present to the preciousness of life. Love those who are in your family. Love your friends. Love strangers. Love, love, and more love. That's what she taught us. She also taught us about gratitude. She taught us that in every moment of every day, no matter what's going on, there's at least one thing to be grateful for. So stand in that. And even though there's so many more things she taught us about the power of spiritual principle. She taught us always practice principle. Always do your prayer work. Always remember that there is a power and presence that dwells within that you can tune into because it's who you are. And when you tune into that, your life becomes extraordinary because you're centered in your spiritual wholeness. That is what our beloved teacher taught us. So even though her form has dissolved, her spirit remains. I found this quote by Brian Weiss, and I think it's totally Dr. Laura. I know we are never alone. We are bonded together throughout eternity. We grieve the physical loss, but our souls are never separated. It is the energy of love, the only constant, which keeps us eternally connected. This is what Dr. Laura meant by love. It keeps us all connected. She didn't want anybody feeling separated. She didn't want anybody feeling disconnected. So she said love, and look what she meant. She meant that it keeps us eternally connected. Wow, aren't we lucky she taught us that? So the parting lesson of the empty chair is its invitation to us to accept our spiritual responsibility, which is this. Are you ready to take your seat and fulfill your soul's duties and its journey as well? Because at the end of the day, as we gather here together, as we connect, as we talk about what's going on in our lives, as we enjoy this beautiful place, there's something else we have to keep in mind. The empty chair reminds us, are you paying attention to your soul? Are you paying attention to what your heart wants to express and be here? Are you paying attention to what gives you joy in this world? Are you paying attention to the laughter that comes from so deep that it is your soul's expression of the depth of who you are? This is the empty chair that reminds us to take a seat and fulfill our soul's duties. That is the mandate for all of us. That is what Dr. Laura is speaking to us from the other side to do. So take your seat, everybody. We got work to do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.